Hi everyone, this is Heather. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Appreciate you joining me today. I am really excited because today I have got a card tutorial to share with you that is made with a brand new stamp set from the holiday Stampin' Up catalog. This is a sneak peek of a stamp set and a die cut set that will be available in the new Stampin' Up catalog for the holidays. That will be released on September the 1st, but you can order this bundle early starting today. And I will have a link in the description box down below how you can purchase this. So the stamp set is called Carols of Christmas. Sorry for my reflections there, but it's got two really pretty phrases, Peace on Earth and Deck the Halls. It's got some really nice ornaments. It's got a poinsettia and leaves. There's a deer, some holly berries and holly leaves, some kind of twinkle lights, and some kind of embellishment lines and accents. And this goes really well with the Card Front Builder Thinlit dies. And it's got several dies to cut out the deer, the holly leaves, the ornaments. Then there's also a pretty border and a couple of trees and a night sky with some stars and a moon. So these work really well together. And I'm super excited to try out some of the new holiday images and die cuts. So this is the card that we're going to make today. The only thing that's not new, it's new-ish from the regular catalog, is the pattern paper. So what you're going to need is some cream cardstock, some pattern paper, and I used a really pretty gold embossed metallic paper, and this is from the Stampin' Up! Eastern Palace pattern paper set. Really pretty. And then also some green and some red cardstock. Then you're also going to need the Carols of Christmas stamp set and the Card Front Builder Thinlits dies. So again, here's the card that we're making, and we're kind of going to be puzzle piecing some of the die cuts. Let's see if you can see that, how I've got the colored paper set inside the opening there for a really cool look. So let's get started. I've already taken a sheet of cream cardstock, cut it in half, and scored and folded it. And we're doing a top fold on our card. And on the back of the pattern paper, I'm just going to use regular adhesive and adhere my pattern paper to my card front. Get that lined up. And the pattern paper has been, the gold pattern paper has been cut to 5 1/4 by 4, just so that a little bit of the cream shows on the sides. And we're going to set that off to the side for a minute. And now we're going to grab a piece of cream cardstock, and this has been cut to 4 by 3 1/2. And we're going to be using 2 of the dies that come in the Card Front Builder kit, and these are kind of poinsettia corners, which is really neat. So what you want to do is lay 1 die in the upper right hand corner and 1 die in the lower left hand corner, and put the line up the edge of the die with the edge of your pre-cut paper. And I'm just taking just some repositionable tape. You could use any type of low tack tape, washi tape, anything, just to hold those dies in place so they don't slip while we're die cutting. Just gonna add some tape there. And now I'm gonna run this through my big shot. Pull this over here. And this might be a little off camera, but I'm just gonna run it. Just gonna place this into my platform, make my sandwich, run it through my die cut machine, And I always like to, sorry, this is going to shake the camera a little bit. I always like to roll it through and then run it back through again, just to make sure that everything is cut nicely. So here are the dies. So I'm just going to carefully take that die off. Got lots of little bits and pieces there. So I'm going to take the dies off, and we're actually going to be using this is sort of called the negative space, where we're not using the pieces that are punched out, but we're using the piece that has the pieces that have the openings in them. And with a detailed die like this that has lots of little small pieces, this is one of my absolute favorite tools. If you do a lot of die cutting with thin metal dies, especially if you have some that are really detailed like this, have lots of little small pieces, this is the die brush from Stampin' Up, and it is perfect. So it comes with a little foam mat and this little roller brush, and you just simply place your paper on top of the pad and roll over top, and it pops all those little dies out for you. And if it doesn't get the front side, you can turn it over and hit it from the back. You can see how it's got all those teeny little pieces out of there, so that you don't have to sit around and try and poke those out. So isn't that cool? So I absolutely love this tool. Really, really recommend it if you do a lot of die cutting. And so these little bits and pieces are actually really great for shaker cards or confetti. So if you want to keep those. The other thing that you can do too is if the paper gets stuck, I don't know if you can see that or not, if the paper gets stuck in the die, this will help kind of pop that out and clean your dies too. So that's also really handy. Just get all these little pieces out of the way here. So this is the piece that I've die cut, and I'm going to take just a scrap piece of red at just whatever size will fit, and we're going to run these dies through again, and they don't need to be placed in any particular order because we just want the poinsettia part of the dies. So we're just gonna tape those onto just a scrap piece of red cardstock, and then I'm going to run this through my die cut machine again. And I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot, which I absolutely love. It cuts so nicely. So I'm going to run that through. Like I said, I'm going to run it back through just to make sure all those little pieces have been cut out. Die cut machine out of the way, and separate my platforms. And so now what we want are just the little flower shapes. So you should end up with 6 little flower shapes, and everything else, if you want to keep for another project, you can do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have all of our little flower shapes that we need there. Get all the rest of this little confetti out of the way. And now we're going to, I'm going to kind of slide that over. We are done die cutting. And now I'm going to stamp and emboss the words. So I'm using the Deck the Halls, but you could also use the Peace on Earth. And I'm going to be using some gold embossing powder. So you want to use a pigment base ink. Versamark is my favorite. It's a clear pigment ink, and it works really, really well for embossing. I'm just going to ink that stamp up. Make sure I've got plenty of ink. And now I want to try and center the stamp in between those. Make sure we're going the right way before I stamp. Make sure that it doesn't overlap the die cut images too much. If it does a little bit, it's not that big a deal. So I'm going to push down really well so I've got a good image there. And you can see just a little bit of staining, but that's okay because the gold embossing powder is going to cover it up. So I've just got an embossing tray, and I'm going to liberally pour my gold embossing powder over the image, and then I like to turn it over and flick that to try and get all those little pieces of embossing powder off. And if it doesn't come off really nicely, you can go at it with a brush and kind of clean off some of those little bits. That's a nice sound. So get that cleaned off. Okay, so I've taken my brush and just kind of cleaned off some of the little embossing powder bits that were sticking to the paper. I've got my handy heat gun. I'm going to turn it on high and let it warm up for just a second. Hope you can hear me over that. And then I'm just going to emboss the powder until I start to see it turn into a pretty shiny gold color. And there we go, starting to turn. Just get that heated up. And if you're uncomfortable with using your finger, you can just grab a pair of scissors or whatever's handy. Kind of hold your paper in place so it doesn't blow away while you're embossing. And I'm going to check and see if I've got... Nope, got one little space down there that still needs some heat. I usually like to kind of tip it up towards the light. Make sure I didn't miss any sections. And that looks really good. So we're done with the heat gun there. And now I'm going to bring over my green piece of cardstock and pull back over my little poinsettia pieces. I moved those so the heat gun wouldn't blow them away. And my green piece is just a little bit larger than the cream piece, so it is cut to 4 1/4 by 3 3/4. And I'm going to adhere the die cut and heat embossed piece of cardstock really liberally. I'm also going to add just a little bit in the corners just to make sure that that holds down really well. I'll line that over my green piece of paper. So now I've got those two adhered together. And now here's where the sort of puzzle piecing comes in. So I've got a glue pen, but you could also use small glue dots if you would rather use those. And then this might take you a couple of minutes to figure out which flower came from which section. So kind of spin it around. That one doesn't look right. Let's see if it's this one. So this might take you a minute before you figure out. There are I have two larger flowers and the rest are smaller. Oh, there we go. So when you figure out that that one fits, kind of while you've got it in place, just kind of like to lift it up, put a little bit of glue pen or a glue dot underneath there, and then fit that in just like a little puzzle piece and press that down. And we're going to do that to all 6 of the flowers. Just kind of turning it around until we can get a match. And there, that one goes like that. Okay. So you're just going to do that to all... Oh, no, it's flipped on me there. Okay. So I'm going to break again and fill in the rest of these flowers, and I'll be right back. Okay, so after a little bit of fidgeting, I have figured out which of the little red flowers goes into which die cut section, and I have put a little bit of glue pen down and glued each of those into place. And there is also a teeny little center stamp for the poinsettia. So I'm just going to take some black ink and put a little set of dots in the center of each of the flowers, like that. So that just adds a nice touch, just makes them look a little bit more realistic. Now we're going to pull our card front back over that we added with the pattern paper, and I'm going to grab some foam squares. You could use foam tape or whatever you've got handy, and I put some foam on there just to pop it up a little bit. Take off the backing paper, and we're going to center that on the front of our card. And there we go. So isn't that pretty? I think this is a really elegant, and it's not really a very difficult card at all. It just it's a little time consuming to fit your little puzzle pieces in there, but really pretty, nice and shiny with all the gold on there for the holidays. So again, I'm using some brand new products that are a sneak peek of the holiday catalog from Stampin' Up. We use the Carols of Christmas stamp set and the Card Builder Thinlit dies. And thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek of the Stampin' Up! Holiday catalog. Please check out my channel. I've got some other card tutorials. And thank you so much for joining me today. Have happy holidays. Thanks so much. Have a good one. Bye.